Stacking Benjamins is not for everyone. Side effects may include euphoria, increased ability to meet your goals, and aggression from people wondering, quote, what the hell your secret is. Stacking Benjamins may be habit-forming, especially if you stick around for the entire episode. Wink, wink. Please check with your doctor to see if Stacking Benjamins is right for you.
Live from Joe's mom's basement, it's the Stacking Benjamin Show. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and how do you go from being a poor kid to making millions on a daily basis? Today's guest has been there, and he'll motivate you to get up and get moving. He's the host of the hit series 60-Day Hustle, Rudy Mawer. Plus, one star says money means nothing to him. Sure it doesn't, because those pretty cars just pay for themselves, right? We'll talk about money, attitude, and a guy named Seth Rogen. And of course, I'll swoop in and dazzle you with a dose of my incredible trivia. And now, two guys who think a bear market is just Wall Street's way of hibernating. It's Joe and G.
Oh, happy Monday, Stackers, and welcome back to the Stacking Benjamin Show. I am the Joe Saul-Sehy. Don't know where.
Wow. Ego is healthy.
You can tell it's Monday. Rust in the pipes, but OG sitting across from me. How are you, man?
All cleaned out, ready to rock and roll.
Okay.
It's an exciting day because Rudy Mawer's coming down to the basement. I love these behind the scenes making of shows, and nobody ever does them with personal finance. So we're doing that 60-day hustle. He works with a bunch of entrepreneurs on Amazon Prime, gets them all rolling. Of course, Rudy has done, well, what hasn't Rudy done? We're going to talk to him about ramping things up, about the importance of hustle, about the importance of networking, about some of the things that they did on this reality TV show, and a new project that he has helping people focus more on their legacy. So good times, OG, on today's show. If you don't leave today's show inspired, there's something wrong with you. Like it's a tough day. And you know what I get inspired by? Working with the two of you.
Of course.
Truly. That's
of course you do.
Inspiration.
Well, yeah.
Duh.
Just the phrase, you light up my life, comes to.
Okay, Debbie, let's keep rolling.
There's like 7 of us who even know that reference.
I don't know who Debbie is.
So bad.
7 of us still alive.
Who's Debbie?
Oh, see, we even lost OG, Doug, on that one. Well, we're going to get him back here in a second because Rudy Mawer is the man behind Mawer Capital. He's also the guy behind 60-Day Hustle, which you can watch on Amazon Prime. And he has a new documentary series that he is premiering. But first of all, he's a guy who has networked with some of those name brand people like Damon Johns. We've talked before on this show about Ty Lopez. He's worked with a lot of the bright stars out there in social media world. Today, he's on our podcast talking about lifting yourself up by the bootstraps, making stuff happen. Let's make stuff happen on a Monday. Rudy coming up next. But before Rudy, who's our Monday mentor, we're going to hear from a couple sponsors who make this show free for you. We get to keep on keeping on, and you don't have to pay a dime for this goodness. So we're going to hear from them. And then front and center with Rudy Mawer. And I'm super happy the man in red is coming down to Mom's basement. Rudy Mawer's here. How are you?
What's up? I'm great. Excited to be here.
I am so happy you're here. You're always working on 50 things. Like, I'm wondering if you ever do just sit around with the feet up. Does Rudy do that?
Dude, actually, it's crazy. So I'm the busiest and most successful I've ever been, doing the most cool projects. But I'm like the least busy. I work 4 or 5 hours a day in the office. I train 2-3 times a day for triathlon. I hang out by the pool on the beach. Because I have nearly 100 employees and I have a great team. So that's my secret.
I think that's a secret to any successful entrepreneur, like, you know, the E-Myth and the stuff that we're going to talk about 60-Day Hustle here in a second. I think a team has to be, like, these systems have to be, Rudy, the key to your success.
Yeah. I mean, I started, like everyone probably listening, as a wannabe entrepreneur, selling on eBay and hustling and working 3 jobs. And one book that changed my life 15 years ago was a 4-hour work week. I was an only child, and my parents will tell you I always loved bossing people about. I'd boss my parents about and my grandparents. But I was like a born leader. I had a big online gaming community at 13, 60 people in my teams, and we had divisions, and we were like semi-pro pro. So I've grown up like bossing people around and being a leader. I think it comes natural to me.
But people don't like to be bossed around. I think there's a way to do it and a way not to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I say that jokingly, right? Obviously, leadership's a whole thing, and some people, I think, have it and some people don't. But yeah, I think the technical term I'd use if I was being serious is empowering people to do their jobs better than I could do them and run their department or little area like it's their own business.
You've got so many projects in so many different areas, but your reality show that came out last year on Amazon Prime, I think it's going to really help us if we hear a clip that will kind of get us into this interview. It's called 60-Day Hustle. You can watch it on Amazon Prime. Here is this is a little trailer. Let's listen.
You can see on the floor, there's 7 numbers. 7 numbers that are going to have an impact on the outcome of this challenge. Pick a number. Now. The decision has been made. Go ahead and look at what's on the other side of your number. So that number is going to be the marketing budget for your next challenge.
When I click the number,
I love there, Rudy, how immediately you're combining like classic reality TV, right? That is your number with this business sense. I noticed one woman picked up a number that said $200.
Yeah.
I'm sure when you were first starting out, like $200 would have been a ton of money to you. How did you get your start as an entrepreneur?
I was always very good and savvy with money. And I think I mentioned to you, I'm just writing a new book all about money. And I remember vividly as a like 8-9-year-old walking to the shop to buy a chocolate bar at night with my dad. And there was a car for sale for about $1,000, right? Very old used car in England. And I said, Dad, I can afford that. And like by 10, I had saved up $1,000.
By 10 years old?
Yeah. And then I realized, basically about 10 years, 11 years old, I started buying and selling on eBay, then buying and selling in school. I'd actually been doing that from like 8-9 years old. I made my parents go to like Sam's Club and buy massive boxes of candy, and I would put them in sandwich bags and then take them and sell them for $1 each. So I don't want to say it comes natural to me, but it kind of does. But there's still a ton of stuff in the middle, right? Hard work, failure, mindset. But yeah, I've always been a hustler and always loved money.
You must have had, though, parents that really helped nurture that. Because I can't imagine my mom at 9, who you met upstairs earlier, my mom would have been like, no, we're not doing that. Like your parents must have been, let's go, let's teach this.
Yeah, well, she was a sweet lady when she opened the door for me, by the way. But my parents, so very unique childhood. My parents were like semi-pro athletes. My dad was the Great Britain team manager for the triathlon team and a semi-pro athlete. My mom was a gold medalist in triathlon, but they had zero money. Okay, and again, in my book, I talk about, I wouldn't say I was broke, but we weren't rich. Like we would turn the radiators on and fire for an hour a day in the morning and an hour a day at night because we couldn't heat the house all day. It's too much. So like I definitely didn't grow up with money, but we had like a decent house. So I think I saw like, hey, how important money is, because we didn't have a lot of it. We had enough for a nice life, but like we were always cutting coupons out in grocery stores, and like it was definitely tight still. So I think I saw how powerful it was. But then because my parents were so elite in a different area of life, I got like the elite mindset, work ethic, belief, but then I applied it on the business money side.
I feel like sometimes having too much money as an entrepreneur can be a horrible thing. I remember we were talking to Don Hahn, who was the producer behind The Lion King and several of the big Disney hits, Rudy, and he was talking about constraints can be your best friend because then you have to dream up more. I got to think, going back to 60-Day Hustle, this woman that picks up you only have $200 to market. This is where the brain activity begins to show up.
Yeah. My big saying that like I love as a quote is anything's possible. And I think way too much in life we are restricted by our beliefs and what we believe, and our life's controlled and basically projected through our beliefs. So, I did grow up believing I think I could do anything because of my parents, and because I was an only child, they were very like trusting. I was treated very much like an adult, and I spent my weekends with pro Olympic athletes at races. So I was like with adults all the time. So I think I matured fast, was given a lot of trust, and I just tackled anything. So yeah, if you're listening, like, you can do anything you want to do in life. You just got to believe in yourself and work hard enough and follow a plan or a mentor or someone that's done it before you.
Well, I love you talk about mentorship because that's a question I really had for you. I look at the names that you surround yourself with, the people you surround yourself with, and I've always believed that surrounding yourself with good, smart people is a huge part to winning. Some of our listeners may not know who Kevin Harrington is. You and Kevin started off as partners. How did you get to know Kevin? How did Kevin get to know you? And how did you guys decide to go into business together in those early days?
Yeah, I've been fortunate to work with a lot of great people. Used to be partners with Ty Lopez and Alex Mayer, who, very successful entrepreneurs, and then, done stuff with Kevin, as you mentioned, Damon John from Shark Tank, pro athletes, Floyd Mayweather, tons of people, Les Brown, famous motivational speakers, go to Richard Branson's island every year, hang out with him on Necker Island. And it's two things. I stand out and I'm unique, and smart, successful people look for other unique people. And obviously I stand out because of the red as my brand, if you know who I am and follow me. But I think also I've achieved a lot at a young age, and people can tell that I'm like, doing some good stuff, right? And that I think successful people look at that, right? And they're always fascinated by, especially young people doing that. And successful people also look for strong collaborations. Damon John rang me this Saturday morning and he wants to start a new project with me. He'll be the first to say, and says it all the time, like he's really good in some areas, and then he'll work with other people in other areas that he's not focused on. And I do the same. I'm getting back into a ton of real estate in the US. I did it in the UK, and I already called up two of my friends that own like $400 million of real estate and said, hey, can you do a few hours coaching with me? And I'll do a few hours in exchange in your business, helping you with marketing. And they both said yes. So to answer the question on Kevin, sorry, was just that collaboration, right? Like I was doing some great things that he knew that we could partner on and do great things together. And every other partner that I just mentioned, it's the same principle.
And it's interesting, Rudy and Stackers. I want to pause right here for a minute, because really what, Rudy, you just told us is the same thing. You hear something once, twice, it's somebody's thing, it's their shtick maybe, but you hear some of these truths. And successful people say it. We began the year with Alex Hormozy, and he was talking about make sure you're bringing something to the table. And it sounds like, I love this idea of exchange. Can you teach me real estate? I will teach you marketing. Like have something to exchange. You've got to have people already, Rudy, like Alex was talking to us about, that say, hey, I'll buy you a cup of coffee. He's like, I got people to buy me coffee. I don't need coffee.
Yeah.
I need an exchange here.
Yeah. I get asked that a lot too. People are like, Rudy, can I take you for lunch one day? And in my head, I'm a nice guy. So I'm like, yeah, we'll figure it out. But in my head, I'm like, I've fasted for the last 6 years. So I haven't ate lunch or breakfast for the last 6 years. And I don't intend to, because I actually have great energy and stuff when I don't eat a big lunch. And secondly, I barely go for business dinners now unless it's with like Damon John or a A-list celeb. Like I like my evenings to be free and do whatever I want. But if that person had just said, Rudy, can I come work in your office for a week and clean up and tidy and run and grab you cans of Monster when you need it and learn from you, I'd say, yeah, sure, come on by. I need to stock the fridge with Monsters and come hang out, right? So it's all about, that perception. I don't want to sound arrogant saying that, because that's exactly what I did to get to where I am today. When I first moved to America, I flew out 3 months before and met the professor that I was coming to do grad school with. And I paid to fly from England, and I cold emailed him 4 times to come and work for free for a week to check out the college before I committed to it. And he eventually said yes. And I got out there from England, paid for all my flights, and he forgot who I was. And I had to remind him when I literally showed up with a suitcase, and he goes, oh yeah, cool. Go on in. The grad students will take care of you.
But hold on a second. Can I pause right there? I'm just imagining you're showing up, you've flown all the way here, you paid for all this, you knock on the door, the dude has no idea who the hell you are.
No. And I learned over the year becoming close friends and partners with him. Like, I didn't take offense to that because the guy didn't know what he was doing all day. And he's one of those successful guys, but unorganized. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was just who he was. But anyway, he loved me for the whole week and everyone in the lab, the research lab in grad school said I was like really smart, really good. Obviously, I was very different from England, right? These people don't know any English people, and I'd flown for a week on my own dime. No college student had ever done that before. So I instantly stood out, worked for free, was really smart, proactive, fun. People got on. I was friendly. And then I got a full scholarship because of that week, right? They give one full scholarship a year, and they gave me the full scholarship, right? Because everyone else was applying to grad school through a resume, and then I spent the week there. Who are they going to give the scholarship to? Obviously me. And then I ended up actually becoming business partners with him, and then I met one of his famous friends through him, who then when I graduated, I worked for free for 6 months for, and he taught me marketing. And I just worked for free and supported him. And he helped get me into all of this. This is 10 years ago. And then I went and made millions of dollars. And in the end came back and he hired me in my agency and I helped him in his own business. And we're still friends to this day. But there's two great examples of how I broke into America, literally knowing zero people, and made millions of dollars from it and got didn't even pay for grad school because I was willing to put myself out there.
The number of people that will pay to go to grad school or will pay to go get a diploma, but won't pay to get in the room with the right person always amazes me. Always.
So funny is that by that age at 22, I had real estate in the UK, a personal training business and nightclub events. So I could have easily paid for grad school. Like the money wasn't even a problem, but they said, "Oh, Rudy, we want to give you the full scholarship." I ain't even applied for it. Like some people had applied for the scholarship. I didn't even know it existed. And they cold emailed me back during the break before moving out there saying, "We want to give it to you." I said, "Okay, great."
Now you're just making people angry, Rudy.
It emphasizes the difference, right?
Sure.
So many people they're like, "Oh, well, how much will you pay me for that week?" Or, "Oh, will you pay my flights to come out there?" Or, "Oh, no, I'm not going to pay $800 for a flight to go." It's like people are so limited. And then they wonder why they're not where they want to be in life because they're not willing to take those risks.
I want to go back to when you were talking about working with Ty Lopez and that team of people, because something from afar that always interests me that you guys did, you went in, I think it's appropriate to say, Rudy, that you dumpster dove old brands, like these iconic names that now the brand had, through horrible leadership and bad decisions, ended up just in the dumpster. How did you and that team, how did you guys calculate the ROI? Because on one hand, it seems like there could be huge upside in Radio Shack or Dress Barn. But on the other side, this could be throwing good money away.
Well, it's a great question. Sadly, the answer I'm going to give you is more simple than some complex algorithm or hack. All of those companies were very successful online and making a lot of money online and good margins, but in the retail stores were losing money. So it was very easy for us to see that on a P&L and spreadsheets. And, the problem with a company like Pier 1, they can't just say, "Oh, we're going to shut all 200 stores down," right? They have inventory, they have debt on them, they have 20-year leases on the buildings. But at bankruptcy, you can because it's gone. And you just kind of like, so it's like, if you're cleaning your room, it's kind of hard to like really tidy your house. So kind of what we did is just took the 10 items out of the house we liked and then dropped a grenade on the house.
Oh, yeah.
It's easier to do that. So the short answer is just looking at what was profitable and what wasn't and keeping the profitable bits. But the business lesson there is actually looking at the profitability. And one of my favorite movies, I watched it last night again, I watch it like every 6 months, is Founder, the McDonald's movie.
Oh, yeah. Michael Keaton, right?
Yeah, great movie. And they even saying there, he asked him, "How did you figure out this McDonald's idea?" And they go, "Well, we used to sell hamburgers, hot dogs, chicken wings, everything. We looked at the spreadsheet and we looked at 3 items made up 78% of our revenue: burgers, drinks, and fries. So we just made McDonald's with burgers, drinks, and fries." It ain't complicated. It's just people don't do it. Most entrepreneurs don't even have a P&L. They don't know how to read a P&L. They don't know their numbers. So, yeah.
It's like this language that once you know it too, once you know it, it's not nearly as hard. But it seems to me the best answers are often the ones, like you said, that's not some complex deal. It's right there in your face and nobody sees it.
People don't want to hear that. I was in the fitness world for 9 years, have a master's degree, trained thousands of people. That was my first company. I grew to 8 million, became probably a top expert in like weight loss and fitness. And everyone would say, "Rudy, what's the secret to weight loss and fitness?" I'm like, "I'm sorry. It's working out every day, eating less calories, eating a lot of protein, eating whole foods, and sleeping well.
Shut
So
up.
there's no supplement, there's no magic pill. I'm sorry, but that's it. And sadly, business is the same. Everyone wants the hack, the magic pill, and it's not that. It's the everyday stuff.
And it is that, because both of you and I know that from our podcast. The ones that I have, and I'm sure the ones you have, Rudy, that have the sexier title, that seems to be there's a magic pill. Those are the ones you can see the listenership goes up on. And I always feel bad for those people because they're buying into this. I don't know. They're buying into this thing that doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist.
Well, yeah. And even podcasts, funny, my podcasts are pretty good, top 10, and we promote them, run ads, and get great guests on and stuff. So we do marketing and stuff. But someone said, one of my clients that pays me $100,000 a year for consulting, they get 30 minutes once a month. That's what they pay for, and some of the coaching and events and stuff. And one of their questions on their monthly call with me is, Rudy, how do we grow a podcast? And I said, well, how many downloads you get right now? And they said, we don't know. I said, well, the first thing is go figure that out. And then second thing, I said, how often are you doing the podcast? And they go, oh, it's on and off. I go, well, you got to do it every week or twice a week. And then I also looked, we just hit in the 200th episode on one of my 2 top 10 podcasts over the last couple of years. And I heard a stat the other day, the average podcast is 6 episodes long before someone quits. Yeah. And I'm like, well, no wonder, even when people say, Rudy, I have a top 1% podcast, I'm like, that don't mean anything to me. I ain't coming on there because it is 99% quit after episode 5, And
it's funny that you say that because so many of us quit and we give up. And there has to be a time, especially, and maybe this was early on, when you thought you were screwed, you were failing, that things weren't working out. How did you, instead of giving up, how did you right the ship? Can you remember a time?
Yeah, actually. So what's funny is the worst, craziest time of my life was actually when I was more recently in the last few years, when I was very successful and I had a bigger company. I had 110 employees and I had a bunch of stuff go wrong at the same time. I had 2 employees stealing from me. I had half a million invested that I was supposed to get back. Like it was a loan, and I didn't get it back. And then we brought on a sales agency of 10 reps. They promised the world, said they were good, showed us all their old data. We spent like hundreds of thousands of dollars on their leads. They all flopped. So we lost like $500,000 more from those reps flopping. And we lost about $250K from these. So I lost about $1.2 million in like 2 months. And it totally ruined my business. And it took about a year to recover, because then we couldn't spend as much on ads. And we had 110 employees and big offices, and we got in debt, and then we had to fight out of it. And it was the hardest year of my life, when I was technically on paper and net worth the most successful. So that was actually the hardest. All my early days were easiest because I would just keep failing. But I think I'm so like into this stuff and excited that I don't even know I'm failing. I'm just out there trying my thing. When in my 20s, right? Early 20s, none of it was really working, but I was earning way more than all the college kids that were in my dorm. I was still earning 80, 100 grand a month, even though half the stuff I was doing was failing, but I was just doing it all and having fun and enjoying the process. So yeah, I know that question's answered a little differently, but I think in the early days, just try everything and enjoy the process and don't worry about it so much.
No, I love that answer because, this Carol Dweck book keeps coming back and thrown in my face over and over about growth mentality, about having a growth mindset. It's not failure if you're thinking that you're learning something from it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. And even when we got in a really big problem with this 1.2 million we lost in like out of nowhere, even people around me, my exec team, my family, were like, what are you going to do? And, they were like, oh, this is like pretty right now. But I always believe, I was like, I'll get out of it. I just know I will. And it took a long time. It was painful and it was slow, and it was maybe somewhat stressful, but we got out of it, and now we're better than ever and more profitable and bigger than ever. And I've learned in life, and I always say, when you're in the middle of a dark tunnel and there's no way out, you just have to keep walking forward, because there will become a light at the end of the tunnel. And when you get out the tunnel, life will be always better on the other side.
Well, I think it's better on the other side too, because I always found that being in that dark tunnel made me so much stronger.
Yeah.
But at the time, I didn't have any appreciation for that. Right. At the time, I'm like, this sucks.
Yeah. But now, even going through that, I think I handled it so well because I have been through lots of adversity before. And eventually you realize this is just part of it. Right. So I think if that had happened to me 6-7 years ago, I probably would have like freaked out, like got super ill and stressed. But I think relative to the problems I had, I don't think I was very stressed or worried, maybe occasionally, but because I've been through that adversity enough now, it's part of the game. And I think that's so important. If you're listening, like, business is never going to be easy. I often say, don't think when you become rich, it's easy. Like Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, they're getting like billion-dollar lawsuits, $200 million lawsuits from the government. Like, who wants to be sued by the US government for $200 million? You think that's not stressful? It's way more stressful than the guy on Upwork stealing $500 in hours overbilling you that you're freaked out about right now. Like, your problems are small and they're only going to get bigger. So get used to them.
Hey, speaking of growth mentality, you've done all of these things. You've done real estate, you have done television shows, you've done all kinds of speaking. You've gone in and resurrected some of these famous brands. As we talked about earlier, you partnered with some great people. Something completely different, going back to Monty Python. Now for something completely different, why go into documentaries? Now you're taking this whole new division, doing something completely different. Why did you decide to go documentaries now on this latest project?
Yeah, well, I'm very creative, right?
I couldn't tell. I had no idea.
Yeah. So very creative. I've always been very artistic, creative, love to create great stuff. A few years ago, we started a celebrity division, right? And we have all these big celebrity business partners and own brands with them. Awesome experience, some epic people I grew up watching on TV. And then that was going well over the last couple of years, a bit slow because, a lot of these big deals move slow. And I was like, what's really next for me? I think it's entertainment. I got my first show on Amazon and we're just filming season 2. From there, I was like, my long-term vision is I want to really go high level in entertainment. I don't want to just create Instagram reels like everyone else. I want to go big. If I'm going to do it, I want to go big. So I want to really create like movies and good entertainment and content on TV that like impacts lives, not just like drama and toxic stuff that you see on like obviously some reality shows. So, I think telling stories is so powerful as a marketer. And so I was like, well, let's create stories in documentary TV format. And then eventually we'll expand into, bigger documentary shows, hopefully on Netflix. And my long-term goal is to create movies like Founder and the Facebook one and Wolf of Wall Street, like movies that are like entrepreneurial, and TV shows like Ted Lasso, where they have a lot of great, like deep meanings under them. That's like my 5-year vision.
It's funny. I'm watching a show in subtitles because I'm addicted to founder stories so much. It's this woman, I'm going to butcher this. I think it's Luisa Spagnuolo, who around the turn of the 1900s created this candy company in a little town just south of Florence, Italy. And it's so cool to watch this woman, pull herself up by the bootstraps and create this company that even with the subtitles, I'm excited. Well, luckily to watch your latest project, we don't have to have subtitles. Let's do a trailer. This is coming soon to a streaming service near you, and it's called Legacy Makers. Let's hear what Rudy's up to.
Good morning, Miami.
I think I'm delusional. And I think most athletes that are like the best in the world are delusional, and like Elon Musk. So yeah, I'm definitely delusional.
It's statistically impossible for somebody to become an agent the way that I did.
My name is Kira Brinson, and this is my legacy.
I saw a light bulb went off. And if I can just hack this system like I do, then the sky's the limit.
Every one of us can reach more, can become more, can do more, because we just never give up.
Same story. You've got greatness in you.
And this features, man, a bunch of people that you've heard of before, Stackers. Carmen Electra. Let's talk about Les Brown, though. When I saw Les Brown in this cast, I've been a fan of Les Brown since I swear to God, I must have been 14 years old. I'm not sure if this guy's 180 now or what, but he is such a kick-ass motivator and friend of Oprah Winfrey's. And what's it like working with people like Tim Story, Les Brown, Carmen Electra?
Yeah, great. Literally like 1 minute before I came on to record this podcast, I was on a call with Les's like business partner / kind of COO, planning a bunch of stuff for Les around TV. And Les is, definitely alive and kicking. And that call was like all the 10 big ideas that they want to do this year.
Oh my God, that guy's got so much energy.
Yeah.
If I have his energy at his age, I hope so.
Yeah, and he even has a red throne. I sent him one. He loved it so much. He's full of fun. Yeah, they're all amazing people, and that's the idea. Like these guys, I grew up in my early 20s listening to motivational montages on YouTube, and it had Les Brown, Sylvester Stallone, some of these guys, and pretty awesome to work with some of them now. Again, coming back to what I said about my entertainment division, our goal is to share the great knowledge and improve lives, and these guys are the people that have pioneered that.
What's the goal of the documentary? What are these people going to share?
They basically share their life story, how it all started. And the lesson there that you'll see from 99% of them is they started broke, poor, and with everything against them.
Same stuff we were just talking about.
Mm-hmm. And then in the middle, they share more present day, who they are and what they do now. And then they end it with lessons. So there's the educational element of like they're sharing their wisdom, right? And even like Carmen Electra came from a small town in the middle of America, took the risk, moved to, LA and stuff with a suitcase, just like I did from England. Les was an orphan left on a street door. You can't make this stuff up.
And the big question everybody wants to know, how do we watch it?
Obviously, our Amazon Prime show, 60 Day Hustle, that's a very separate studio, etc. And that's on Amazon.
Right.
Season 1's already there. Go check it out. 60 Day Hustle. And then a lot of my stuff that I'm doing with all the celebrities and my entertainment division. Head to my Instagram. There's links there. If you want to check out Legacy Makers, just search in legacymakerstv.com, or our network is called InsideSuccess.tv. You can do that in your browser, and that pulls up a bunch of shows we have.
And Stackers, if you're out walking the dog or out training for your next triathlon, how about that, Rudy? I've never done that one before.
Yeah. You'll see me on Miami Beach running. So if you're ever out here training, you'll find me.
I bet we know what color he's in too. Yeah. If you're out training or you're walking the dog, we've got you covered. If you're not at your computer, head to our show notes, stackingbenjamins.com, and we'll give you all the links to all Rudy's projects. Rudy, thank you so much for mentoring our stackers today, man. I super appreciate the time.
No, it's been my pleasure. I love to teach this stuff. Hopefully someone out there got one thing that can change their life, and that's what I love to do.
Hey there, Stackers. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. And man, oh man, I just found out that Southwest Airlines is going to start charging for baggage.
Isn't that horrible?
God, it's horse pucky. Maybe that's why, in protest on today's date, Lewis and Clark decided to walk all the way to the West Coast. No? I mean, it could have been the reason. You don't know. It's like foreshadowing. And another event that happened on today's date, nearly as big as Southwest canceling free baggage. This is also the date in history, way back in 1953, that the first jet transatlantic flight going from west to east occurred. I wonder if the passengers got that little Biscoff cookie during the flight. Those things are awesome. I imagine Wi-Fi and that free live TV was probably not that great back then either. So, since it seems to be a travel day in history, let's make this today's question. Of the major airlines, which is the oldest? I'll be back with the answer right after I tell Joe and OG to put their tray tables away and their seat backs up, because this show's about half an hour from landing. Hey there, Stackers. I'm this show's #1 flight attendant and the guy with really warm nuts, Joe's mom's neighbor.
No.
I'm not Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug?
Keep going.
Okay. Today is apparently a travel day in history between Lewis and Clark heading west and the first transcontinental flights heading back east. I think we pretty much got it covered. So here was today's question. Of the major airlines, which is the oldest? The answer? Delta Airlines was created way back in 1925. But don't worry if you guessed United or American, because those airlines started within the next year. And so did many of the planes you just flew on. And now, back to the guy piloting this episode, OG.
You just decided I don't exist anymore?
Well, but he's the only licensed pilot amongst us. He must be the one running the episode, right?
That is true. Piloting the episode.
Yeah.
Bringing in for a landing.
Just want to be factually accurate.
You know, it's funny. Delta, United, and American, the one that sucks the most is whichever one.
Which one is it?
The one you have to take the most often. right? Because
right.
I feel like if you live in United's backyard, you're like, oh, I love the fact that I get to fly Delta. And then if you live in Delta's backyard, you're like, oh, what I give to fly American.
I don't really get why people get so upset about any given airline. And it might just be what my expectations are. I just need to land alive at the destination city. After that, I don't really care unless there's like goats and chickens on my plane with me. I don't care that much. I've never had an experience on any of the airlines that just so far exceeded my expectations that I talked about it. There's none of them that are amazing.
It's like the Jerry Seinfeld bit where the pilot comes on and he's telling you about the route they're going to take. And Jerry's like, as long as we get to where it says on my ticket, at the time it says, I will let you go any way you want. Just feel free to get crazy and take a different route.
Right.
We'll be flying 35,000 feet over the Grand Canyon and then over
If you look down now, you'll see Des Moines.
And it's gone.
Although I do like it when you're flying with OG and he does the tray tables up and comes on the pilot thing.
I had to fly in the back of a plane the other day.
I'm the passenger sitting in 1A.
It was awful.
You had to fly in the back of a plane.
Oh, God. Ugh. You feel the yaw of the plane. I was like, what is happening back here?
Back with the commoners?
I know. It was ridiculous. I'm never doing that again.
But Doug, you got to find out what it was because these seats have what, like 28, 30 rows? You were in like row 12, weren't you?
I was in row 12 or 13 on the way out, and on the way back was like probably 20 or something. It was
what?
Disgusting. Like, I'm not a big guy. My knees were touching the front. I was like, how do normal people sit back here? Like, what is happening?
We just don't bitch about it.
Yeah, I guess not. And I would raise holy hell. I just wouldn't go. I just wouldn't go anymore. I'd be like, yeah, I'm not doing that ever again. I'll just drive.
Those people around you so wowed by the fact that someone of your caliber would be sitting back with them. Was everybody asking for autographs?
Did you see who's in 20C? Oh my God.
My, how the mighty have fallen.
Of course he's not in a middle seat.
No, I definitely wasn't in a middle seat. I'm not suicidal.
I'm not.
Whoa. Easy.
Even my kids were like, this is a little ridiculous. When you agree, Dad? I was like, yeah, it is. We need to make more money. This is stupid.
I don't know what we're doing back here.
They're like, we should have just driven to Colorado. I'm like, I'm thinking the same thing. Like 20 hours in the minivan would have beat 2 hours in this.
You know how every season of the White Lotus has at least one family that's super wealthy that's at this super high-end resort and all the kids are spoiled?
No.
That's the OG family.
There it is.
Caroline said to me this morning, she goes, Dad, when I have kids, I'm going to totally give them the life. And I was like, oh, yeah? How is it profoundly different than your life? She's like, I don't know, but it's going to be awesome for them.
There's got to be something better than this.
There's got to be something better than this.
I got to butter my own toast. My kids aren't going to have to butter their own toast.
Hello, darlings. And now it's time for your favorite part of the show, our Stacking Benjamin's headlines.
Today's headline comes to us from Yahoo Entertainment. You can tell it's a high-end news day here on Stacking Benjamins. Actually, I really like this headline about Seth Rogen. Ellen Journey wrote this piece and writes that after starring as a teen actor in Freaks and Geeks, Seth Rogen went on to write and star in iconic comedies like Superbad and Neighbors, to name just a few. Also pretty major producer, having worked behind the scenes on shows like The Boys and Gen V. The Boys may be one of the only series I gave up on because it was just too gross.
Oh, gosh. It absolutely goes too far.
Too far. Could not get through the last season. On top of all that, he's a great director heading up his new Apple TV Plus series, The Studio. Seth OG recently appeared on a podcast and was talking about how he feels unattached to his money and where he spends it. He says he doesn't hoard his wealth because he's afraid that he'll die with too much money, which frankly, I don't think a lot of our stackers are in that position where we're like, I got so much money, I'm afraid I'm going to die with money. On one hand, I think that's not the case, but I just remember when I was a financial planner, I saw that mentality way, way, way too much, where we are so afraid that we're going to run out of money, that we never do anything. We never have any experiences. I like seeing somebody who's completely on the other side of that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's all a balancing act and relative, when you hear a billionaire say, I'm going to spend a lot so I don't die with a lot, you're like, whatever, bro. But I think this is the difference. I was having this discussion with somebody a couple of weeks ago. This is the difference between saving and investing and doing a good job with no plan, and saving and investing and doing a job with a plan simultaneously. I think there's two financial planning crimes that happen. One is very common, which is undersaving. And that's a problem for lots of people, like not getting to the point where we've saved enough money or saved early enough and that sort of thing. And most people are concerned about it. But the other side of it is the crime of saving too much money. And that sounds really silly to say, like, oh, wouldn't it be nice to have too much money? But there's a consequence to that. And the consequence, or the secondary effect to that, I should say, consequence sounds bad, is you're foregoing things today that you might choose to do if you had the confidence to know that your plan was fully funded within reason. I'm not saying that you should plan for like, okay, I'm going to die on my 92nd birthday with exactly $1. That's not a really great plan either. But if you've done a good financial plan and your plan is showing rising to the right in all scenarios, that just means you have some flexibility. You've built flexibility into your plan that you can take advantage of whenever you need. And I feel like a lot of people just don't do that second half of the calculation to say, well, what flexibility did I buy myself? What did I get myself by doing a good job, by saving all this, since I was 20 and 30 and I did a good, and I've got this money now. What does that get me? Well, it gets you either something like, well, early retirement, right? That's an obvious outcome. It gives you some flexibility in terms of downshifting today. The number of conversations that we have with people that are like, it'd be great if I could just drop down to like 75%. Let the 25-year-olds work their tail off. I'm good with skipping Fridays for the rest of my, and I'll take a pay cut to do that, but they don't have the confidence that they can do that with the resources that they have, or foregoing the trip or the lifetime experience with family, people that'll say like, I really want to travel with my parents. They're 75 and they're still pretty good. And I'm 50. I'd love to take them on a trip, but I just don't know that I can swing it and still retire. Or, of course, having more resources on the back end of doing some meaningful things, whether it's charitable giving or a foundation or something like that. It's about flexibility, but to have that flexibility, you have to have the confidence that your plan's going to be on the right track. And I think a lot of people are missing that.
I know if somebody's new to the show, they're like, really, is this a thing? It is 100% a thing. When you go to conferences like Economy, where I was a few weeks ago, when I go to Camp Phi, one of the breakouts, OG, every single one of these events I go to is one more year syndrome.
Yeah.
Meaning I think I might have enough, but I'm just going to go another year, showing that we undervalue the value of our time while we're overvaluing the dollar. Well, we don't have enough respect for the fact that that 1 year could be the year. We don't know what's going to happen in the next 12 months. This could be the year when we could have done all this stuff. And instead we're just going to do the thing we hate one more year.
Well, hate's a strong word too. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't mean it's doing something that you hate. It's
good point.
And this is one of the problems. You call it one more year syndrome. This is one of the problems with the concept of early retirement, in my opinion, is by the time you get there, you're also in your peak earning years. And if you've been successful, right? If you've risen the corporate ladder, if you've grinded it out and all that sort of stuff, you're at the spot now where you're making whatever number, right? $300,000 a year, and they're giving you $300,000 of stock options. And you're like, I want to be done, but those idiots keep giving me $500,000 a year. If I do that 5 more years, that's $2.5 million more that those nincompoops are going to send my way. Maybe I'll just keep going.
And if you are that listener, please call OG for his services now.
I will get you retired. Yeah, for sure.
I think it's important. It's funny what goes on in your head. Seth said this on this interview. This is with Dax Shepard, by the way. He said, I guess I've seen over time, and I'm just so not like this. Money is the thing people really hoard and have a lot of pride in, the money itself. They want to turn their money into more money and love how much their money is making them and how profitable their money is. And that's just not how I think, Seth said, admitting he has, quote, no desire to be expanding his wealth by making his money, quote, work and other investments and assets. Now, that is a privilege because he's made so much freaking money that he can think, I don't have to invest. But to your point, OG, the reason we invest, I think, is to get where Seth is.
Yeah.
Going, yeah, my money's out there making money, but it's not about the more money. It's about the doing more stuff, which, by the way, the average person spends more time planning their next family vacation than planning their future, like the thing they really want, this love they might have in the future.
My trademark saying that I need to actually put on a t-shirt is the goal is to have enough money so your money makes enough money so that you don't have to make money. That's the part that we want to get to, right?
That's a really big t-shirt.
It's a lot of words. I know. Maybe there's like an acronym or something.
Continued on the back.
Yeah.
Well, that's the exciting concept around Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? I mean, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, some of the conclusions at the end are eye roll, but during the book, the big aha is if I can create this mound of money that's like a mini me going to work every day, that my money takes its lunch pail out and goes to work. I take my lunch pail and go to work. When my money is making more money per day than I'm making, or it makes enough that I don't have to work, for me, that was a big, oh my goodness, my whole goal here is to get that money working so I don't have to.
There's only one counterpoint I'd like to make to this. It occurs to me, because this is not by any stretch the first time we've talked about this, about making sure that you don't feel afraid of retirement so much so that you limit yourself to not having any experiences. There are those people for whom that's a happy place where they're not spending. I know one of those people, and they are really happy and really content not spending money.
I think that's the big point here, though. For Seth, it's not about spending money or not spending money. He spends a lot of time in this piece. He spends a lot of time on pottery, which cost him next to nothing. So it's not about high-end resorts or blowing a bunch of cash. It's about doing what he wants to do in the moment.
Okay, sure. I'm talking about for the average person who's struggling to try to find a horizon, a future for their retirement where they're not working anymore. There is a smaller subgroup of people who just feel happier not feeling like they need to go out and go to Thailand or go to Disneyland or even go to Oklahoma City, because that's, going to be a big trip. They're perfectly content and their happy place is not doing those things. I want to say that's okay, as long as it's just you that's impacting. But if you're robbing experiences from your family members, let's say, because that's your happy place, but not everybody else is, maybe then you need to have some compromises so that you're making sure that where your happy place is not impacting the other members of your family.
And I think that's a problem of where people are beginning. I love that point, Doug, because I think a lot of people start with the wrong stuff. They start with the money instead of starting with what is it that actually makes me happy and the people around me happy. They don't even start from there. And because of that, you end up with these misinterpretations. My client, Mike, who, wanted to work all this overtime and continue work overtime. Meanwhile, his spouse, Donna, really wants to take this trip to Alaska. She can't take it. She can't take it because she wants to go with Mike. And Mike is like, no, man, just a little more overtime. It's funny. Seth Rogen in this piece says he can totally understand why people function in the way when it comes to finances where they're thinking about their money a lot. Prompted Dax Shepard to admit he definitely operates with a constant fear that he's going to run out of money, to which Seth replied, that's not a fear I have. Seth said, I'm afraid I'm going to die with too much money. That's my fear. I don't have children, and I'm afraid I'm going to die and be like, I could have had a place on the beach. I don't want to die with 10 million in the bank that I could have spent doing fun things alive. I could have been jetting this whole time. But to your point, Doug, it's not about, it doesn't need to be about the 10 million, but he's got this counter fear that I've got 10 million that I don't want to spend because it doesn't really light me up. And I'm afraid I'm going to have $10 million left. It's a wild, wild thing to be.
I actually was pausing because, as soon as you said, I'm afraid of you, Seth's quote about I'm afraid of dying with 10 million, OG was like, yeah, that. He was making finger guns at the screen or something. What was your reaction to that, OG?
I mean, I've said that 10,000 times. So I'm glad that Seth Rogen is quoting me in a piece with Dax Shepard.
He got your t-shirt.
Yeah.
I mean, what I say is, what's the point of having $10 million and never taking your kids or grandkids to Disney? Like Disney, everybody knows who's been there, is a gigantic money suck of epic proportions. It doesn't even matter if you're like, I'm going to go on the cheap. There is no cheap. There's expensive and insanely expensive. Those are the two ways to run Disney. And when you're there, I've said this story 100 times. It's like, I have the recurring night. It's straight up a nightmare that the bill is too big, and people don't remember this, but they used to put your hotel bill under the door on your last day. And my nightmare is the bill is too thick to slide under the door. So they have to knock on the door and wake me up at 2:30 in the morning. They're like, here you go, sir. And I'm like, oh, crap.
With the big red declined stamp on top of it.
Yeah, and I'm like sweating the whether Amex is going to cover it. Because every time you walk by something, you just hold up your little magic band. You're like, ooh, I'll have a Dole Whip, ding. I'll go on this. I'll get this pin, but ding. I need a sweatshirt, ding. I want to do this fast pass, but ding. It's like, the meter's just constantly going. And so whatever the price is expensive, and however you run it is expensive. On the back end, you go, that was pretty much like, that was cool. Like, I'm glad I got to have those experiences with my kids. But all the prep, to your point, Joe, about prepping for it, you're like doing the numbers. You go, this is insane. This is ridiculous. But the experience is fun. It's hard to say whether or not it's worth it. But if you have 10 million in the bank when you're 100 years old and you've never done that, I think you've done your family a disservice.
Dear listener, don't forget what preceded all of this 10 minutes ago, whenever we started talking about it. I think you said it, OG, is if your line graph of your retirement planning is going up and to the right and the forecast, and you're set, like you're in a good spot for your prep, then go do all of these experiences. Don't rob yourself of these experiences because you're on the right path, right? We're not saying go spend the money and, screw the future. We're saying get yourself in a good spot and then go make sure you have the experiences.
Or spend the money now, have wild stress, and get your ass to work. Either way.
Oh, okay.
It's funny. Jonathan Clements actually said that you get to choose. You can choose to have a lot of fun in your 20s and 30s or have a lot of fun later. You get to choose which way.
Everything costs. Everything has a price. Pay for it now or pay for it later.
That's right.
And I love the fact that you get to decide and you think about it, because how many people think, well, I don't have power over that, right?
Well,
that's not me.
Yeah. I think in real life, what really happens is you wake up in your 40s and go, man, I did a lot of dumb stuff in my 20s and 30s that if I'd have known better, I might not have done. And in retrospect, you go, that was kind of fun, but maybe I should have made a different choice. It's different to make a proactive choice, than the default choice, which I think many people do.
I can't tell you how many posts in the personal finance subreddit say, I'm 48 with X amount saved. Am I screwed? Like, that's one of the most common questions out there.
Well, it's definitely one of two. It's I'm 48 and I'm screwed. Or it's, I started planning when I was 23. I'm thinking about Nick Majuli when he was on talking about how he focused on just money at 23. And he's like, I should have been thinking maybe about some different things.
Have just a skosh of interest. I mean, honestly, that's one of the concerns that I have with our kids is they are getting to the point, not Caroline, but the boys are getting to the point where they recognize how much work it is, to save money and all that sort of stuff. Like they see that. And they also are getting to the point of understanding how much stuff costs, to the point where we went golfing. I took William golfing and he didn't have a golf club. I was like, you need a golf club. He goes, no, I'll be fine. I go, no, I don't know. There's science. You're supposed to have one. And so we went to the pro shop and got one, and we belong to a golf course. So there's no money exchange. They just write it down in a little journal and bill us later. And William walks out and he goes, Dad, you didn't pay for that. And I said, oh no, the golf pros, they got it. We write it down. He goes, well, how much was it? And I said, honestly, I don't have any idea. I don't know, $10 maybe. He's like, $10 for this? How do you afford stuff like that? Like, it hit him, I think, he was like,
oh, that's a good realization.
This thing is like, I told you I didn't need it, and now you kind of forced it on me. I mean, I guess I'm happy I have one, but $10? Like, how much that's Xbox money I could have spent, or, when we go out to dinner and they're like, how much was the tip? And I'm like, oh, it's $30 on tip. Like $30 for a tip? Like, how much was the bill? Like, they're starting to kind of wrap their heads around it.
That was just McDonald's,
which is good. But also I'm concerned that they're going to be really tight with their money when they're young, and maybe have some regrets when they're in their 30s and 40s going, I'm glad I have all this money, but I wish I would have done something more fun. Or maybe they'll just save all their money and spend mine. I don't know.
Well, or just like Dak Shepard, this piece just freaked out about it, whichever side you're on, right?
Yeah.
Freaked out about the fact I'm going to have too much money, freaked out about the fact I'm not, like, neither one of those is super healthy.
Not a good place.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting debate. We will link to this in our show notes page at stackingbenjamins.com. I think the fact that that you get to choose and you can plot your course, I think is the healthy way to
choose your own adventure book
on your money. Yeah.
Choose when you go broke.
I'm going to go for 37. But Joe, you're 57.
I was like,
mission accomplished.
I checked that box. I was like, broke. That was easy.
All right. That's going to do it for today, except for the back porch. Doug, what's going on the back porch today?
Yeah, Joe, we had listener David reach out to us. He had a revelation while he was listening to the Barry Ritholtz episode. That was 1661, if I'm not mistaken. And he says, I don't even know if I can pronounce this word.
Shao?
I don't even know if it's like legal to say on the
I'm trying
airways.
to read it. Yeah.
Shoo! Pow! You got me, Doug. While at work yesterday doing some mind-numbing task, aren't they all? I was listening to the podcast on my birthday, no less. Got me thinking about that day.
I know what he's talking about. He's talking about your trivia about if you were born that week.
Was he thinking about when he was born? Does he know? Anyway.
If you were born that week, remember your trivia, Doug? If you were born that week, there was a good chance you're a 4th of July baby.
Yeah, I do now remember that. And he says, I was likely conceived in a camper. Thanks for the visual, David. As that would have been my parents' camping era. Other people around me at work were probably wondering why I was smiling like Bob on that old Enzyte commercial. I have no idea what that means.
I don't either, but that's great.
What's Enzyte and who's Bob? But maybe he was with your parents. I don't know.
Oh.
Maybe Bob's his real dad.
Oh, boy.
Who knows?
Thanks for sharing, I guess, David. I don't know why.
I love for helping people put together the family tree, Doug. You're doing a service. People going, wait a minute.
It's like God's work out here.
I'm a product of a joyous fireworks show.
Conceived in a 1962.
Yeah. Like in northern Michigan in late December, early January, when they piece it together and they go, wait a second, those are ice storm babies.
Yes, that's right.
Next year.
It's going to happen.
That is a thing.
Put
they
it
have
down.
tracked back.
Nothing else
They
to
have
do.
tracked spikes in birth rates back to some of those events. There was a famous brownout in New York City was it the late 60s, early 70s? And there was a birth spike after that. And then the big whole East Coast one that happened in like 90. Was that 99? When did that one happen? No, it was a little later than that.
It was in the 2000s.
Yeah, like 2000, 2001.
Yeah.
And there was a
3 or 4
thing after that.
Big surge. That actually hit as far west as Detroit. I remember we were in the Detroit suburbs. There was no power, but they had power out at MIS. So my son and I at the last minute went and watched the NASCAR race. We just drove out there.
Not that soon, Joe, because you were at my house playing board games like 2 days after it happened. You were in my back porch. We played a board game on my back porch.
Because we had no power.
We had no power. I was actually, when that happened, this is like my brush with greatness. When
playing board games with me, that was your brush with greatness right there?
2 days prior to that. I was there. I was within a mile or two of where that whole thing started, just outside it was in the Cuyahoga Valley between Cleveland and Akron.
I don't think you want to put that on the record,
I was
buddy.
gonna say,
they're still looking for the guy.
Nobody's yet connected. It was your fault.
You're free after all these years? I would have thought that was a 25-year felony, but I guess not.
And just after they say, Doug, don't touch that.
Yeah. I remember my grandpa saying not to pee on electric fences. Now I know why.
Shocking.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah. Good times. But brush was greatness, Doug.
Yeah, there's a lot more to that story, but I just wanted to say I was right near where it happened. And also coincidentally, awfully close to where Jeffrey Dahmer grew up.
No. So didn't need that.
Should not connect those two things.
Things were going along fantastic.
My bad.
Then he takes a hard right.
But anyways, David's parents had a great time in a 1963 like Road Warrior.
Last thing for the back porch. If you don't get the 201, you won't know this, but we update our guides every month. The HR guide and the tax guide, stackingbenjamins.com/tax guide or stackingbenjamins.com/benefits to get the guides. But every month we update them. And we have some new flowcharts explaining the 101 around HSAs in both of those. One, obviously, about how the HSA works and why you would choose it in your benefits package. The other one about using it as a tax strategy. So that's this month's update.
Really happy to be able to help out with our HR guide, Joe, that somebody was able to learn from my whole HR file you just wrote the opposite of everything that was in my HR file.
It was amazing how easy it was.
From working in the basement. And you're just like,
don't do this, don't do that, don't do that. And you're good. Yeah, it's good. Speaking of good, what are the 3 good things, though, Doug, we should have learned from today's show? What's on our to-do list?
Well, Joe, first, take some advice from Rudy Mawer. Make yourself useful. Show up, be ready to work, and network. Second, take some advice. I can't believe I'm actually saying this. From Seth Rogen. Money? There's a sentence nobody said before.
That's a new one on this show.
Right? Money? Sure, it's important, but worrying about your cash all the time? Not as great as living your best life. You have a budget to live better, not to strangle all the fun out of it. But the big lesson? Just because OG's a pilot doesn't mean he wants to join the Mile High Club. Apparently, he likes to fly planes less than a mile high because that guy just gave me a very, very dirty look. Fine. OG, fly low. Fly low if that's what trips your triggers. Thanks to Rudy Mawer for joining us. You'll find both of Rudy's shows, 60-Day Hustle and Legacy Makers, at his website, mawercapital.com. That's Mawer, spelled the obvious way, M-A-W-E-R. This show is the property of SB Podcasts, LLC, copyright 2025, and is created by Joe Saul-Sehy. Joe gets help from a few of our neighborhood friends. You'll find out about our awesome team at stackingbenjamins.com, along with the show notes and how you can find us on YouTube and all the usual social media spots. Come say hello. Oh yeah, and before I go, not only should you not take advice from these nerds, don't take advice from people you don't know. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before making any financial decisions, speak with a real financial advisor. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and we'll see you next time back here at the Stacking Benjamin Show. Did you guys see Steve's post about how he edits our show and the 3 things he pays attention to?
No.
It was, he listens for live from Joe's mom's basement. Sorry, Steve, that was a fake out. Because that's when he knows the real stuff starts. Like, he doesn't even bother listening to any of the stuff ahead of that. He's just listening for that audio cue live from Joe's mom's basement. There, I did it twice, Steve. Psych. He listens for Steve, because then he knows he's about to get a direction to do something. And he listens for take that out. Which, I mean, hopefully he's got AI to pick all of that stuff up for him, because it happens a lot.
While we're in the after show already, Doug, let's talk about what's going on at your house, because a lot of our stackers don't know what's going on at your house. This you had like this ice storm that happened.
Yeah, it actually is historic. It's never happened this badly before in recorded weather
Doug
history.
said that on some dates, by the way. It's never happened this bad before. This is historic. These are all
this
Doug's
never happens
life.
to a guy like me.
I tell you
this
what,
is historic.
This
Never happened in recorded history.
You had to go outside with a hard hat.
You had to cover it all up.
Did you wear your hard hat when you went outside?
Are we done with 7th grade?
No.
Not even close.
So what happened? So it's historic.
Yeah, an ice storm hit the northern portion of Lower Michigan. And when I say northern, I mean it started 3.5 miles south of my house and went north. So I was on like the front lines of this ice storm.
Settle down, Marine.
Started Friday night.
What are the brave people?
It was. I mean, it was like the Germans were sending shells through the treetops.
The people behind you, they got it easy.
To be fair, Doug did call me, and I asked how he was doing, and he said, "This is probably a bad example, but I know why soldiers have PTSD." And I'm like, "Okay,
this is probably a fucking bad example."
Yes,
I did start with that. I didn't say soldiers and PTSD, but okay, you're right. Either way, the comparison I made was probably a bit exaggerated, but the reason I brought that up was because the ice storm started Friday night, lost some power Friday night, came back around 3 a.m. Saturday morning, had power for a couple of hours while the ice was continuing. It was this weird sort of not quite rain, but more than mist, and it just slowly coated everything. And then Saturday afternoon, it just became too much and overwhelmed all the power lines and the trees. We lost power Saturday again, probably dinner time or so, and haven't had power since. It's been, I don't know, 5 or 6 days now, 5 days or so. It's just amazing how much tree damage there is. It really does look a little bit like a tornado, which I've seen, or maybe some hurricane type aftermath you've seen, because the amount of trees that are down is hard to grasp. And I don't know how to explain it, but it just keeps coming. So the ice hasn't melted yet entirely in 5 days, but the winds are picking up. So what's happening is all of the stuff that didn't break with the initial weight is now, or that got weakened by the initial weight of the ice, is now coming down from the wind. And it all seems to be from within like 3 or 4 miles of my house. I think everything's focused on my roof. It's all just coming to hit my roof, which is why I was saying to you, Josh, a couple of days ago, was I get why people get desensitized in battle zones to explosions, because we watch it from the safety of our houses and think, how can you not flinch when there's some major explosion that happened a mile from you? Well, after 50 of them, you just don't even notice it anymore. When the trees started falling right around, I mean, within like 10 feet of my house, we were freaking out initially, but after an hour or two of that, you think, okay, it hasn't come through the roof yet. So
let go and let God.
Yeah. And it hasn't stopped making those noises since, I don't know, like I said, 5 days or so. We've been hearing stuff hit the roof about every 3 to 5 minutes, either huge chunks of ice or pretty big branches. Thankfully, we have a metal roof, but it's pretty nuts. And yesterday we had this beautiful looking day. It was all blue sky. But it never quite got warm enough to melt all of the ice in the trees. Now, as we start recording, I'm looking outside and it has started snowing again. And that is supposed to change back to rain, and freezing rain, more importantly, by the time we're done recording. So we got another round of it coming through here in the next 12 hours. Is that enough detail for you, Joe? Is that salacious enough for you to pique the ears of our listeners?
I wasn't looking for salacious. I was looking for to give you some empathy, and now you're just being a I'm like, wow, Doug's been through the ringer. Yes, I have.
Well, an interesting thing that happened, or that made this kind of a fun adventure, was our driveway's quite long.
Scoreboard.
And okay. Down at the very end of the driveway, I didn't know this actually until
because it's so long, obviously.
Yeah,
I've got the longest driveway.
5 really large trees fell right down near the road, but on my driveway, and had us blocked in here for about 4 days. It's just a weird feeling to know, doesn't matter what happens, the only way you're getting out is on foot.
You're caught in a trap. You can't get out.
Yeah, I think that's like the second time you've used this joke in 3 episodes.
Because there's too much ice on the road, baby.
Kentucky rain keeps falling down.
It's northern Michigan rain.
Yeah. But then we finally got that cleared out. So if we need to leave, we can, but there's nowhere to go. There's no power in most of the towns.
Sounds like you're 3 miles away from it, dude. You just said it started 3 miles south of you. Just drive 4 miles.
That's right.
Well, that's a
probably
fair
like
point.
a Holiday Inn Express with like hot food and warm water.
There isn't much south of us until we get to Traverse City, but going north, there's still no power north of us. No gas at the gas stations because everybody rushed the gas stations for fuel for their generators. The stores aren't open, for grocery stores and stuff aren't open. So it's been quite an experience. Makes me empathetic for all the people we hear about and probably don't think enough about in hurricane season.
Yeah.
And some of the other, wildfires. This is nothing compared to those things. We don't have water rushing in my house. I don't have flames
Yet.
at my doorstep.
Yet.
Well, that's actually interesting you say yet, because they are worried about that. They brought in the National Guard because all of this stuff falling from the trees is fuel for forest fires going forward. It just becomes fuel. So, and I can't see, I've got this is not a scoreboard, but I got a fairly cleared out area of my yard anyway, in the woods.
Scoreboard.
You can't really see it. It's covered with branches.
Cleaned up the underbrush, as it were.
Yeah, it's bad. It's going to take days and days and days to pull that out.
Got it all trimmed up.
Yeah. I think I might just have to buy a
new house,
wood chipper.
New house.
I might just tear this whole thing down and start again. I don't know. We'll see.
Might have to move.